Hey, I'm Alex Macklin from Board Game Co., and today I'm reviewing Living Forest from Pegasus Spiel. Living Forest is a 2 to 4 player push your luck game which you're going to be slowly building out a tableau while trying to achieve one of 3 victory conditions. In the game, the general idea of what you're going to do every single round, I'm going to start with a starter deck and then I'll try to walk you through everything. The general idea is you're going to have a deck of cards, and you're going to start playing out cards one at a time. I'm just playing on the board over here, but generally you have them off the space to the side, and you'll be lining up these symbols. Now I just got one of these dark cards over here, those are bad. Once I get 3 of those, I got 2. See, here's the problem right now. Right now I have 6 trees, I have -2 sun, which is not good, 1 water, and 1 movement, which altogether is not a ton, so I'm going to go ahead and risk it and continue going. The problem is, on a given turn you get 2 actions, and those actions are driven by the strength of the various symbols you've lined up. The problem is, if you ever reveal a 3rd dark card, one of these over here, then you drop down to only 1 action, so I have to be careful. I'm still safe, and right now at least I have 3 water, which gives me more room to do this. I have 1 less tree, which is not great. I think I'm going to... Unfortunately, I only have 1 action now. So I got back up to 8 trees over here, and I have 4 water, but I can only take 1 action instead of 2 because I lined up 3 of these. That's the general idea of the push your luck over here. Throughout the game, you're going to be adding cards to this deck. Every single round, you're going to reshuffle. Players are all drawing simultaneously and then taking actions in turn order, but that's the primary mechanism. You can take 2 actions a turn, or 1 if you bust. Now, what is it you're trying to do and why? How do you actually win this game? Congratulations, we have trees, sun, water, movement, all these things. What are you actually trying to do? Well, there's 3 ways to win the game. The first way to win the game is to plant 12 different trees. You have over here a bunch of trees you can go ahead and get from this board over here. They all have different things they'll do for you. We'll come back to the trees in a second, but if you have 12 unique trees on your board, that's one way of winning the game. The other way is actually on the cards themselves. You'll see over here, this bottom symbol over here is a flower. That doesn't do any actions for you. That's just a flower. You'll see them on some cards. For example, these higher cost cards in the market over here, you'll see those flowers. If you ever line up 12 flowers in the process of playing all cards, you win the game. So if you can build a deck that's heavy in flowers, you may have a chance of winning the game just through that alone, but it will take time, effort, and energy to build out your deck, which we'll come back to that soon. And then the third way is to collect 12 fire tokens. Fire is going to be something that's trying to keep all the players down, but you as a player have the opportunity to both defend yourself with a strong water deck, but also aggressively take out the fire and stop it from affecting yourself and others by collecting these fire tokens from the center over here, and if you get 12 of those tokens, well, you win the game. So the 3 rules of 12. Now there are a bunch of things that shift things up. First of all, let's talk about the actions. What can you do with sun? Well, sun is used to buy more cards. As you add more sun, which again, we had negative sun in this one, but you can see over here, if you had different levels of sun over here, let's say I had 5 sun from these 3 cards, then you can go ahead and spend that sun, spending it on the bottom right of these cards in the market. There's 3 different tiers, 3 different levels over here, but you can buy those cards, add them to your deck. You can buy more dark cards, which often have a lower cost and or higher benefits, but they also have the risk of busting, or you can buy more of these to pad your deck out, getting, hey, this is going to cost 3 sun, but every time it comes out in the future, it'll draw 3 more sun, and it gives me a lower odds of busting by having that in my deck. For an action, you can buy as many cards as you can afford using the cumulative sun you have acquired. That's action 1. The next action is water. Water is going to be used twofold. It's used defensively to prevent the strength of fire as you add more fire to the game over here, because what happens is you're going to be drawing cards. When you purchase cards, you're going to replace it with that level of fire. So for example, over here, and these should be upside down over here, you can replace it with that level of fire, and this is going to be added to the pool next round, and that level of fire progressively gets stronger and stronger unless the players are beating it down. So having water operates as a defense. If there's 6 total strength of fire and I have 6 water, the fire won't hurt me. Versus if there's 6 total strength and there's 5 and I have 5 water, then I'm going to be taking cards for those fires and adding to my deck. These cards are useless. The only thing they serve to do is clog your deck up. They don't even have the upside of giving you symbols along the way. These are not great. There are ways to get rid of them using these tokens over here, but that requires actions to go ahead and get those tokens. So basically, try to make sure you have your water up in guard and defense. And then lastly, that's the water over here. The water can additionally be used as an action, because holding water defensively is not an action, it's just there on your board. You can use it aggressively as an action to take that combined strength worth of fire tokens. I have 4 water, for 1 action I can take 2 of these, which makes the whole entire puzzle a little less dangerous for everyone, myself included, but also gives me these tokens, and if I get 12 of those, then I win the game. So that's going to be the water. The trees are how you buy trees. Now trees are a little different. Unlike being able to add up your total and then distribute as you want, trees are just just one tree no matter what. If I have 8 strength worth of trees over here, I can buy any one tree that costs 8 over here. The cost of the trees all going to be on the front on this little standee over here, and they give you not just a win condition, but they also augment your tableau. The way trees are going to work is when you buy a tree, you're going to take it. Let's say I buy this tree over here, I'm going to put it into my board, and now I automatically have an extra 2 sun every single turn. Additionally, if I were to get another tree over here, for example, I put a tree down here, I now have 1 sun, 2 sun, but I also, because I've done this row over here, I have 4 sun coming to me extra, which is going to help me purchase more cards. And you can get all sorts of symbols in the trees. You can get more water, more sun, more trees, more everything as you try to augment what you have in your engine. That's the part where you're building up your tableau naturally. And then you have movement over here on this board. Movement is going to be helpful for your people moving around this board, and they will pass over other players. And when they do so, they're going to take these little indicators. These are 3 indicators that players start with, which basically reduce the requirements of the 3 win conditions by 1 each. So right now, I don't actually need 12, I only need 11. But as players take them from each other, then it's going to change the relative strength for all the players. Now I need 12 fire, and that player maybe only needs 10 because he already has another fire token. So choosing these tokens, there's a little bit of a race on this track where when you move around this board over here, and again, that's going to be triggered by this symbol over here, that symbol there, when you move around the board, you not only take the action of the spot you land on, which often will be water or sun or something like that, or these little X's, which is how you get these tokens, which is how you get rid of some of these cards, but you're also going to be passing other players a little bit of a race to try to get ahead of them and set yourself up better for being able to lower your necessary win conditions in the game. And that's basically how you play through the game. There's a few small things we didn't get into, but that's the basic idea of how you play through Living Forest. You're going to be engaging in a push your luck system, drawing cards from a deck, taking 2 actions if you don't bust, 1 action if you do bust, utilizing the strength of your symbols while you try to chase 3 different victory conditions, either the flowers in your cards, the trees in your tableau, or the fire tokens you've collected. And along the way, you're improving your deck and your trees in order to be able to, and as well as on this little player board over here, being able to gather these tokens, all being able to improve your engine and give you more of a chance of winning in Living Forest. And that's how you play the game, which means it's time for the review, starting off with ease of play. The rulebook itself, I actually thought was not the cleanest, and there's still some questions in it I'm not totally sure on, so I don't think the rulebook's the best, but the game itself is fairly straightforward. The rulebook is shorter than it should be ideally, but leaving a few questions out there, but again, the game itself is not that hard to understand. Hopefully you have a good sense of how to play it from this video alone. So overall, the game is fairly straightforward. Game time comes in around the 45-minute mark. It gives you like enough things to consider. If you're being a little faster or aggressive, maybe playing at 2 players, maybe you can get it done in half an hour, but I'd say around the 45-minute mark. As far as what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, starting off with what I like, which the push your luck in general isn't too punishing. This is a push your luck game, and I enjoy push your luck. I enjoy the aspect of, do I go 1 more? Will that symbol help me? Will I be able to buy the tree I need to be able to diversify my symbols? Is that something that's going to be useful? Overall, the push your luck is fun, and you drop from 2 actions down to 1, which sounds punishing, and it is if you're always losing, but on an overall basis, you don't bust per se. You don't get to do nothing. You still get to do stuff in the game. And the semi-simultaneous nature of the gameplay keeps the whole thing moving at a brisk pace as well, as players lay down their cards one at a time, as they then take their actions. That will be not simultaneous, but it goes pretty quickly because you're building out your engine. You're hopefully already thinking through which actions you want to take. As you go through the building out and playing cards, and you think through whether you want to pull that 1 more card, you're like, I'll probably go for trees unless I bust, then you're thinking through that, and so actions in the game can be fairly quick. The tableau building is present both from the way you build up your trees. The trees are constantly giving you more and more bonuses. As you cover these edge spaces, you'll get those bonuses there. As you cover this row, you'll get 2 flowers. That's going to give a good chunk towards those 10 flowers you need. More so if you've been crossing other players and taking those as well. You can really drive towards different endgame strategies as you build up your deck, as you chase people on the board, as you build up your forest. There's a lot of things you're doing. Everything you do helps you. It's a choice or decision as far as which thing do you think will help you the most, which is going to be the most useful and beneficial as you drive towards, well, those endgame conditions. And the win pathways do feel satisfying. All of them feel satisfying. Chasing down the fire keeps the forest in control. You need someone doing it, by the way. If the players just ignore the fire, the game will become annoying very, very quickly as decks get clogged up with cards. You will inherently have people who feel the need to deal with the fire, just inherently. The question is, are you doing it a little bit passively and maybe towards a victory condition, or are you really aggressively pursuing it as your main pathway forward? But all the options are viable as far as what you're trying to do. All the options are rewarding as far as what you're trying to do. We didn't even talk about these cards. This little white symbol negates one of those. So if I draw this, I can actually ignore the next one of these that I draw. That's going to be very helpful. It negates the symbol that you're drawing there. There's a lot of things you can do, and they all feel rewarding. This is a game that just gives you stuff, and it's satisfying to get those things and build off of what you're building. As far as what I don't like in the game, 2 things. One, as I said already, the rulebook I don't feel is great. I don't know if that's a me problem. I just felt the rulebook was not the clearest. And also, I'll say that trees do feel dominant in the early game. As much as I think the win conditions themselves are all viable, I think you can't really afford to ignore trees. And you can't afford to ignore everything, mind you, but I would say trees are the biggest thing. If you get a bunch of trees out, you can get some early game benefits very strongly. I think that you have to get trees early game, and that just means that, and again, maybe I'm wrong, but from the plays I've played so far, that just feels that it is the dominant thing that you have to focus on, and so that limits a little bit the variability you'll have over there. And then last, I'll say that some of the elements of the game can get samey over multiple plays. We'll talk more about it in final thoughts, but this is a game that I definitely liked a lot more in my first play than as I dove into it more. And as much as I enjoy everything the game is doing, to a certain extent in this game, you are going to dabble in a little bit of everything, and that means that as I play through this game, I don't necessarily feel, I feel there's choices as far as what you prioritize more in one path over another, but you do see and touch upon different elements of the game every time you play, and that has reduced some of the replayability satisfaction that I've experienced as I've continued to play this one. As far as what I can see others not liking, first of all, this is a game where the rich get richer. If you build up a good engine of cards, of trees, or whatever, you are going to go ahead and have a system where you're getting more. You have a better deck, so you're drawing more cards. You have more trees on your board, so you're drawing more. As much as busting is not that big a deal, if you bust on your first 3 turns and other players don't, and you can sit there and say, well, you shouldn't have pushed further, but I may have drawn 2 black cards in my first 2 cards. What am I supposed to do at that point? And you may have drawn 5 white cards, and you're like, oh, you shouldn't have drawn that last one. Look at me being all calm and cool. Yeah, because you have 5 good cards in your engine, I have 2. That element of luck is absolutely going to be present. This is a rich get richer game, as tends to happen in push your luck games, especially with very little early game mitigation around how you can adapt for that. So that's definitely going to be present there. There's also the potential for mean plays in the game. You're going to have times where players are just walking around this board, stealing from other players, or they're leaving the fire for other players. There are absolutely times where I have, because it's the right thing in the game, I've chosen not to put out a fire that I could have because I could withstand the heat and other players couldn't. You sit there, you look at their boards, you're like, oh, you only got 4 water, I got 6. I'm not going to take more fire. Do I want it? Will it help me win? Sure. But it's also going to clog up your deck with 3 of these cards, and that might be the most annoying thing I can do to slow you down. So not only is it the fact that the game can result in mean plays, but it's also going to result in slowing down your entire game. Having a bunch of these in the game is not a satisfying experience, and while you can always get rid of them, the amount of effort you have to expend to do so sometimes just make the rest of the game a little less fun for you as you go through it. If your deck gets too stuck, too clogged, you're going to have a less fun time. There's not much you can do about that. As far as final thoughts on Living Forest, like I touched upon already, this was a game where I was a lot higher on after my first play compared to getting multiple plays in. Now, I still enjoy it, make no mistake. I think Living Forest is very satisfying, very easy to play, it rewards you at every turn, so there's a lot of things that are strong and rewarding with the game. I do feel that the longevity of the game, and there is an expansion. I have not tried the expansion. I am looking forward to trying it at some point, but I do feel that the game, the more I played it, the more I felt that it kind of touches upon the same things every single game. It's build stuff up, grab things, add things to your engine, but nothing keeps the game fresh or different or makes it interesting to continuously play. Sure, the card distribution is different, but not meaningfully so. It's just that which symbols are there. You don't have a strong sense of a different strategy. The trees are always present the whole time. This center board is always the same. So I do enjoy the game, but I think it's a little lighter than what I'd be looking for in a game that doesn't shift up the gameplay experience from game to game. So for me, overall, this is a 3.5 out of 5. Definitely one I enjoy, definitely one I recommend you try out, because I started off high in this game and went down a little bit as I played it more, and your experience might be different there. It's worth noting this game is available on Board Game Arena, and I've enjoyed playing it on Board Game Arena, and it's probably one I would still return to, because I do enjoy it enough that especially the ease of playing something on Board Game Arena makes it easier to dive into as opposed to setting it up at my table at game night. So a 3.5 out of 5, that's The Living Forest. As far as other game recommendations, first of all, if you want another game that very much has a similar push your luck breaking mechanic, check out Mystic Vale by John D. Clare and AEG. Very similar feeling while being a very different game. And then if you want something that gives you that push your luck element while having some of the same problems as like the rich get richer and catcher mechanics and all that, but while giving you a different experience every single time, I think Quacks of Quedlinburg kind of gives you the same feeling, the same sense of reward, but with more variability to make the experience different every single time you table it. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.